Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. Right, let's get the first thing out of the way first. Yes, I've got a black eye. I went at the weekend to a toddler's birthday party and those 3 and 4 year olds are absolutely vicious. Anyway, today we are looking at my favourite plugins. Now, I'm not going to be looking at any amp simulator plugins. This is just going to be plugins that I would use in a mix or for recording. I'm going to start with the utility style plugins. I'm going to get to the more sort of creative plugins a little bit later on. The plugin that I use on pretty much every single track when I'm mixing or when I'm creating is the FabFilter ProQ. Now, there's various versions of this. There might even be a newer version of the one that I'm using here. But in my mind, this is the most useful EQ plugin that you can get, and you can get results really, really quickly. I'm going to start with an overdriven tone, and it sounds like this. The first thing you'll notice is this fantastic real-time display that comes up on this plugin. Now, this is incredibly useful for a variety of different things. First of all, you can really see where your frequencies start and end, and you can also highlight the problem frequencies so you can get rid of them really, really quickly. This particular guitar sound has an annoying frequency in the upper mids. Let's find it. Now, what I can do with this plugin is to click on this little line here, and I've got this listen button that I can click that I can find specific frequencies. So I can select this frequency in a certain Q range and then really hone in on that frequency. So what I'm going to do is to increase the Q. Now, what that's doing is to make the frequency curve a lot more pointed. And let me demonstrate that by dragging this up here and bringing back the Q. So the lower the Q, the rounder the frequency curve, and the higher the Q, the sharper the frequency curve. Now what I can do is to find that frequency. And then I can easily just bring back the gain. You might be thinking, well, I can't really hear the difference between the before and after. But if I bypass the plugin now, and I recommend you wear some high quality headphones for this. The next plugin that I'm going to show you is a reverb, and my favourite reverb for using with any sort of guitar track is the UAD Lexicon 224. Unfortunately, for those of you that aren't in the Universal Audio ecosystem, you're not going to be able to use this plugin. You need to have a Universal Audio Apollo interface with DSP to be able to use this. But there are plenty of other companies that make this sort of style of plugin. Basically, what this is a reverb unit, a hardware reverb unit called the Lexicon 224 that was invented in 1978. It's a big old 19-inch rack unit, and it used to come with the LARC controller, which is what is demonstrated on the screen here. Now, this used to sit on a large console, and then you could manipulate the sound that you wanted. Now, even though this plugin is digital and vintage, it still sounds great today, and I use it on pretty much every single recording that I do. So here's the sound without it. And here's with. Now, you might be looking at this plugin and thinking that's really complicated, all the controls on it, but it's not. It's really simple. You've got all of your different reverb types at the top, and then your modifiers underneath, and you've got these faders that you can manipulate up and down to create pre-delay or high and low pass filters, etc. So let me just demonstrate by turning up the reverb. Now, the thing that I love about this plugin is it's basically the reverb sound of my childhood. If you can think of any late 70s to 80s music, and the reverb sounds on that was probably created by a 224. So that is my favourite reverb to use, especially on guitars. Now, let's have a look at delays. My favourite delay, without a doubt, is SoundToys Echoboy. I think this is one of the best sounding plug-in delays you can get, because you can get a wide variety of tones out of it, and it does absolutely everything that you need. Now, there is a light version of this called Echoboy Junior, so if you don't want to buy the full version of Echoboy, you can have a look at Echoboy Junior, and it's a lot cheaper. I'll turn off the reverb just to start with, and let's turn on Echoboy. It's incredibly simple to use. Basically, you've got your two different delay types here. You've got your mix control, which is the amount of delay. You can sync this to your track if you wish, and then you can have your delays in time with the track that you're recording. We've got a really simple EQ where we can cut the lows and cut the highs. And then we've got our delay style. Now, we've got loads of different vintage style echo units. So for instance, if I want to choose the sound of a Memory Man, now on its own, a delay is pretty bland, to be honest. So what we can do is also bring in that Lexicon reverb with that delay. So we can get sounds like that. So there's the reverb, delay and EQ. Now, the next plugin that I'd highly recommend is the Waves CLA2A. The Waves CLA2A is a really simple to use compressor. Now, it sounds great on a load of different sources, although it is quite a slow compressor, but it works great with guitar. And if you're not used to using compressors, I really recommend using this because it's so simple to use. Now, what I can do with this compressor is just put it on lightly. It's really going to fatten up the tone. And you can either use it in a really transparent way where you're just sort of reducing the peaks, or you can really impart the sound of this compressor onto your guitar tone. So let's turn it on. And if I bring up the peak reduction, that's going to bring in the amount of compression. As you can hear now, the volume's dropped, so what I can do is to increase the gain to get it back up to unity gain. Now, lastly, I think we should have a look at what I consider to be one of the best sounding shimmer reverbs, which is Valhalla Shimmer. This plugin is incredibly easy to use. It sounds fantastic and it's really reasonable. I think at the moment it's about £50 and it sounds like this. So let me just demonstrate how the guitar tone sounds without the plugin in. And now in. Now, this plugin is not only great for creating those sort of shimmer guitar parts, which have been all over sort of tracks probably for the last sort of 5 to 10 years, but it's great for creating sort of pad light tones. Now, if I use a volume pedal to gradually bring in the guitar, there's my top 5 plugins that I'd recommend that every single musician gets inside of their DAW. Now, this video is not sponsored. None of these companies are paying for this video. In fact, none of these companies actually know that I'm making this video. If I could only have 5 plugins in my arsenal, this would be them. Anyway, I really hope you guys got something out of this. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click on the bell button and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul and I'll see you next time. Cheers.